Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and thank you for tuning in. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Layla, the Lenormand reader, and today folks we're doing another card combination video. We are looking into a pair of cards and then we're going to add a few triplets to expand on this. So I've got my deck as always and I'm just going to fan out the deck like I normally do for these readings, for this exercise. And let's pull out just a couple of cards. And by the way, sorry folks about the shadow on the camera. I'm just in between spaces. I'm traveling, so please bear with me. So let's go ahead and look at these cards. Well, speaking of travel, here we go with the mountain and the book. This is so interesting for me, folks. This is such a sign for me. This has to do with an unknown location. And I'm actually heading to a place that I don't know. So hopefully I'll get to update you about that. The mountain and book. So the mountain is often associated with obstacles. This is the standard way that most Lenormand readers will interpret this card. And in my card combination master, I also talk about the mountain in these ways. So it's a primary interpretation of the card. So the mountain points to obstacles. It is hard, it is rigid, it is cold. It creates that sense of distance, and it's a bit like giving someone the cold shoulder when it comes to relationships. But the mountain, because, of its association with natural borders, it has to do with travel and a location abroad. The idea of it's like traveling through the sea and traveling past mountains into another space, into another location. And so I generally associate the mountain with this idea, the idea of traveling and going to a place abroad. Now, the book is really interesting. It has to do with mysteries and things not yet revealed. It's usually the card of secrets. And when you get the book like in the center of a portrait, it normally tells you that you can't really answer the question yet because it's so closed. I have to say, though, that the book might depend on the illustration that you have on your own deck. I'm used to a book being closed. There are other decks that involve a book that is open. So maybe the illustration helps you interpret the card. Usually when it's closed, it has to do with information that is not yet revealed. And when it is open, it suggests the idea of, well, revealing the information. So this can depend on your specific deck and also if you resonate with the illustration. So the book on the other side of the mountain here suggests that this is a place that is not yet known. So it can mean that you go somewhere that you haven't been to yet and that you will discover. But I have to say that because of the mountain being this idea of something of an obstacle, and with the book, there is this idea that something is like closed off, like it's stopped almost in our face. There is no answer. There is no solution just yet. It feels like we are stuck, with the mountain being where it is, hard and cold, and, this obstacle that stands tall, and the book being closed, and there's no information, there's no answer. Together, it is a pretty strong message of things being closed off at the moment. And if you get something like this in your readings, you can use this as an advice to let things stand for the time being. So it's definitely good advice to not be pushy, not try to force answers, not try to force getting past obstacles. And in all cases, it's likely that we can't. It's just that they're so strong in our face and closed off like that. So it's best to just wait until it thaws a little bit, until there's more leeway, until it's a bit more flexible. Because as it stands, it's pretty like closed off and standoffish in energy. Okay, so this is a really interesting pair. I'm very happy to see it. Let's draw a few triplets. So I'm going to draw this card and let's put it to the left-hand side here. Oh, wow, this is interesting. So the scythe and mountain have very, I would say, contrasting energies. The scythe is all about breaking through, cutting through. It is that energy of, sharpness and release. And when I see the book, the mountain and book on the other side of the scythe, I really feel that we're not able to break through. If we had a positive card instead of the book, like maybe a sun or a clover, it might tell us that we could break through. We could break through this obstacle into the release or the relief that is represented by the positive card. But I fear that because of the book here, it doesn't really help to try and break through at this time. And so I feel that it supports the idea that we initially suggested, the idea of letting things stand and to just, leave them for the time being because there aren't any answers just yet. Let's switch these around. If we had, for example, the scythe on the other side of the book, then here it's possible that we're able to break through into answers. We have the mountain, book, and scythe, and the book and scythe is really about opening this book, really breaking through the mystery, and really forcing it up to open. And it also helps on the other side of the mountain. So we're able to break through these obstacles, break through the mystery, and really, get this thing to come out into the open. Now, if it's not about revealing a mystery, revealing this thing that's on hold, it can mean breaking away from it. But I really feel that it has to do with opening it up. That's the main interpretation of the cards. If I were to flip this around, I think it's still supportive. I would say still supportive. And the reason I feel this way is because the scythe is much stronger than the book. It is not stronger than the mountain. The mountain is pretty hard and strong, but it is stronger than the book. So I feel that the scythe opens up the book even if it's before it. I'm not so sure it would be so successful if the scythe were before the mountain, because the mountain is hard and it's strong. And so I feel that it really counters the energy of the scythe. But the book is not as strong as the scythe, so I don't feel it counters it as much. And so I feel with the scythe before the book, but after the mountain, it helps to break through this obstacle. That's how I look at the cards, in terms of the nuances, the extent of the positive or the negative influence, or the extent of the strength of the card. It helps to have a sense of nuance for these things. And on top of that, we have the scythe in the middle of the triplet, so this can add to the idea of cutting through. So these are some interesting suggestions for this triplet. Let's put the scythe aside and bring this back in here, and let's draw another triplet. The clouds. Okay, so the clouds, I would say, adds to the challenge of the mountain and book. It can mean that we are stressing out about this and that we want to get out of this, but we're not able to. So I think in this order, I'm not so sure the clouds add so much value, let's say, or so much layers to the mountain and book. But what it can add is that sense of intellect and psychology. The idea of the clouds is that it's a card of the mind, very much about thoughts, beliefs, patterns at that level. And so with the mountain and book, this can point to the mountain and book being more psychological in character. So this can mean a sense of stuckness, an unwillingness to see things, an unwillingness to open up, just being rigid and possibly even stubborn. I think these can come out through the clouds, mountain, and book. So very interesting set of cards here, and I would say helpful. Let's move the clouds to the other side of the book on the right-hand side. I don't think this adds too much, except that, we try to look for answers and we don't really get them, or it's possible that the answers we find are not the ones we want, or that it muddies the situation even more. Maybe there's an information overload here that we're not sure how to process, or maybe not enough information. We have these gaps. The thing about the clouds is that it adds doubts, and it's cloudy, right? It's cloudy. So it adds gaps and cloudedness to the situation, doubt and hesitation, and just not being sure if we have the right information. I'm not so sure makes a difference with the clouds in the middle. I think it's pretty much the same. I would say it's pretty much the same. Do you have any suggestions for how this would be different? Let me know. I'm happy to look at them on our social media post. Let's put this aside and let's leave these like this. Let's draw a third triplet. Let's see here. Awesome. Oh, interesting. The cross. The cross is one of those, eh? It's one of those somewhat challenging cards in the sense that it's not too easy to interpret the cross. It certainly was the case for me. It's one of those cards that I'm like, I know what a cross is. I know how some people associate with the cross, but I'm not so sure what to make of it in Lenormand. So my conclusion is that the cross has to do with deep lessons, matters of destiny, important decisions. It can be a bit painful, coming through this idea of bearing one's cross, the idea of having to live up to something. And I also feel that the cross has to do with this idea of having to do something, having to put up with this or that or do this thing. Okay, so mountain and cross. Actually, I look at this combination a little bit differently. I look at it in terms similar to how I would read the mountain and child. I read the mountain and child as suggesting a beginning whose importance we do not see. And I feel that with the mountain and cross, it can point to something like that as well. This idea that we're in for an important journey, an important chapter, one that's going to have quite a lot of implications on our life. And what's nice is that the book is on the other side of the cross, and it adds to the mystery of the cross. The cross and book can point to the idea of spirituality, religiosity, and so with this mountain here suggesting a journey, it can mean that we're in for first of all, a new chapter, just in general, across any area of life. But I also feel there's a bit of a deeper thing going on here. I think this can have to do with the idea of a spiritual journey, a vision quest, maybe wanting to reveal or to go within and to bring out some insights. So even though the mountain and cross are typically challenging, I feel that with this combination, it can bring up something so interesting like what I'm describing, the idea of pursuing a journey, like a vision quest, a spiritual journey, this idea of seeking understanding, seeking the depths of who we are or something about life or just life in general. So it can be a really interesting way of reading the cards. Let's see if we switch the book to the left of the mountain with the mountain in the middle here. Book, mountain, and cross. So I feel that because the mountain and cross remain the same, and with the book being this idea of pursuing, I feel that this order of the cards can remain the same, like what I just talked about. This idea of seeking understanding, and with the mountain in the middle, there could be an added layer of wanting to break through obstacles, wanting to understand what these blockages are about. So this is a really nice set of cards for inner work. It doesn't have to be just about our day-to-day job, money, home, family, relationship. It can be about the spiritual journey. There are cards in Lenormand that bring out these spiritual journey insights. It's just about knowing about them, you yourself as a reader, having that kind of exposure in life, having that life experience so that you can actually interpret the cards in light of these ideas, So at the end of the day, you're able to produce interpretations based on what you know about the world. That's why it makes a difference to have, a bit of a spiritual side as Lenormand readers. And I think most of us do and are that way. Let's try to switch this around. So suppose I did this, for example. Interesting. I just got an intuition here that with the cross and book being about spirituality and religiosity, but having the mountain on the other side of the book, I feel that this can possibly mean that one's belief system is creating blockages. This can cause a challenge for folks. A lot of us who are, entrenched in our beliefs might not be so quick to be willing to change. And I feel with something like the mountain here, it helps us really dig into this, to ask ourselves, are our beliefs, whether they are spiritual beliefs or other beliefs, are these beliefs limiting us in some way? Are they setting up obstacles in ourselves? Is that conscious or subconscious? It can be either. This is a really interesting way of looking at these cards, and I really like it because I feel that when we pose these questions to our client or to ourselves, the cards are actually asking us to go within. And it's important. It's important to do this work. It's not just about what we're doing out there in the world or achieving our goals and all of that beautiful stuff. It also has to do with the inner journey. And when we see cards like these, I feel that it can help us dig into our limiting beliefs if we are blocking ourselves in some way, possibly sabotaging our journey, our progress. Wonderful, wonderful cards. I really enjoyed this card combination session. I wonder if you feel the same way. I wonder if you're resonating with the cards as well in the same way. I would certainly love to hear your feedback about this. So be sure to leave me your thoughts and comments. And follow me on social media. We'll continue the conversation on there. And if you haven't downloaded any of my free resources, then go right ahead and do that. And also check out the pro guides, the master courses, and everything else I have to offer. So thank you so much for tuning into this card combination reading. I'm so happy to have you on board. I'm looking forward to our next reading together. So until then, take very good care of yourself.